Shutterbugs. This week we are talking about composition. What's composition? It's how we arrange our photos. It has to do with the rule of thirds, what is in our background, and being mindful of whether or not we crop somebody's arms or legs off. It's all about how we arrange the picture that we're taking in our viewfinder. So let's start with the rule of thirds. Have you ever noticed on your camera that there are lines? 2 lines going this way and 2 lines going this way. They intersect and it almost looks like a tic-tac-toe board. Did you know what that was for? Those are guidelines to help you with the rule of thirds. So essentially, your camera is broken into 3 sections. And the general rule is that you want your subject to be filling up 2 of the 3 sections, or 2/3. So that might be the bottom 2/3 and the top is something different. It might be the right 2/3 and the left is something different. It might be the left 2/3 and the right is something different. I'm going to give you guys some examples of what to look for in the rule of thirds and the right way to do it. But think about a mountain scene and think about how the mountain and the land would fill up the bottom 2/3 of your picture and the sky would be the top third. The same would go with a beach scene. You might have the ocean and the sky filling up 2/3 and the beach only 1/3. What if you're taking pictures of people? Well, you will want your subject to fill up 2/3 of the screen and then have the background be the other third. Now here's the tricky part. Rules are meant to be broken. So once we learn this, we can totally break the rule, but it's a very important photography rule to learn and something that will help all of us become better photographers. Let's look at some examples. Here you can see that the ocean takes up the bottom 2/3 of the picture and the sky the top. This picture from Oregon, the ocean is the left 2/3 of the picture and the mountains the right third. In this picture from Yosemite, the mountain and the lake take up the bottom 2/3 and the sky the top third. Here's a picture of the Grand Tetons. They take up the bottom 2/3 of the picture and the sky is the top third. Finally, in this picture, the little girl is on the right third of the picture and is clearly the focus. The next thing with composition that we want to consider is how our distance affects the size of our photo. So look at me now. I'm pretty close to the camera and I look larger than life. But as I step further away, I get smaller and smaller and smaller. So think about the distance of your subjects to where your camera is and how large you want them to appear. One of the things we'll get to later is macro photography. And macro photography is super cool because we get to take something that's really tiny and make it look big. Think of like a bee on a flower. If you take a picture of the bee on the flower from a couple feet away, the bee's gonna look itty bitty, teeny weeny tiny. But if you get up close and you get in on that bee, the bee is gonna look large and we can see all the details about the bee. Here are some examples of how distance affects the size of the subject of your photo. Check out these 3 photos. The subject did not move at all between shots, but as you can see, because I as the photographer moved, the size of the subject changed. The further away I got, the smaller he appeared. Another thing to consider with composition is lead lines. These are elements of your photo that lead your eye to the subject. So here's a quick example. You can see that the boardwalk walkway leads our eyes to the girls, which are the main subject of this photo. Lead lines can be fences, walkways, roads, rows of trees, railroad tracks, anything that's in a straight line that's in your photo. Let's talk about limb chop. I don't want you guys to be cutting off hands, arms, feet, legs. Be mindful of the people in your photos and where their limbs are. It's easy. You think you have everything lined up perfectly, and then you look at the picture when you're done, and they don't have a foot. So this is a minor detail, but it's so important because you can have a good picture that would genuinely be great if you just had thought about where are the hands and the feet. So limb chop. Do not do it. Got it, guys? here's a quick example of limb chop. Where did his arms go? He has no hands. If I had planned this picture better, I would have taken this picture from being a good photo to a great photo by not chopping off his limbs. All right, Shutterbugs, it's time for our weekly challenge. This is what I got for you this week. I am sending each of you on a rule of thirds scavenger hunt. I want you to go out there with your cell phones into the world and take some pictures for me. Just like last week, we are going to send the photos to me. My email address is below, and I want you to include your name, your age, and where you're from. Our ultimate goal is to create a really cool Shutterbugs online photo gallery that all of our friends and family can see the fantastic work that we're doing. So go out there, take some pictures, have fun, practice your rule of thirds. Don't be afraid to use the guides on your camera, and make sure that you don't chop anybody's limbs off. Until next week, Shutterbugs, I hope you take lots of pictures and have lots of fun.